Welcome back to part 2 of Module 6, Lesson 4, where we're learning to solve two-step equations involving P times the sum of x and q is equal to r. In other words, using the distributive property. Example 2 gives us the problem 5 times the difference of n and 2 is equal to negative 30, and we're going to work this one just like we worked the problems where we had the sum of n and 2. So we're going to start off by taking, and we're looking at two different approaches. Method 1, they took and isolated the stuff in parentheses first by undoing division. They used the division probability of inequality right here, dividing 5 on both sides. The 5's on the left would have divided each other out, becoming 1, and 1 times n over 2. That left n over 2 right here. Negative 30 divided by 5, that left negative 6 right here. And now they're going to move on to the final goal of an equation is isolating the variable. The variable's friend is minus 2. We're going to make minus 2 go away by adding 2 on both sides. These 2's would zero each other out, so you need to put a 1 through them. And then right here, you get negative 6 plus 2. Signs are different. Find the difference with the sign in front of your larger number going in front of your answer, giving you a plus 4 for that problem. That's solving it using the division probability of equality first. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to do the same exact problem, but this time we're going to use the distributive property first. Either way is good. All except either way on the homework, but unless your homework assignment says to use a specific method. Now solving it the other way, using the distributive property, we started off by taking this 5 and we're going to distribute it through the grouping symbols. 5 times n, that's going to become 5n. 5 times 2, that's going to become 10. And now we've got a simple two-step equation here. And remember, in solving a two-step equation, you undo addition and subtraction first. You have a minus 10 here, so we're going to make minus 10 go away by adding 10 to both sides. These 10's are going to zero each other out, and on the left we have negative 30 plus 10. Signs are different. Find the difference, which is going to give you a negative 20. Sign for your larger number going in front of your answer. And on the left hand side, all that's left is going to be the 5n. From here we're going to undo multiplication and division by dividing by 5 on both sides. 5 divided by 5 is 1. 1 times n is n. And then negative 20 divided by 5 is going to give us that same negative 4 that we found the other way. Either way you solve it, you're going to get the same answer. Either way constitutes good, high-quality algebraic supporting work. And now it's going to be your turn. Pause the video and solve this question on your own. You can do it either way that you choose. Now, as I said before, we have choices. We can use the division property of inequality first, or we can use the distributive property first. Sometimes the division property of inequality is easier, sometimes it's not. This one, it's actually going to be easier. And the reason I know this is I'm looking at it and I'm saying, does negative 2 divide into 22 an even number of times? And the answer is yes, it absolutely does. 22 divides into negative 22 negative 11 times. So we're going to take and divide both sides by the negative 2 first. The 2's divide each other out, the negatives divide each other out, and that's going to leave y minus 3 on the left. 22 divided by 2 is going to be 11. Positive divided by a negative, that's just going to leave me with a negative. Now all I have to do is undo addition and subtraction. 3 is subtracting itself from y, so I'm going to take and add 3 to both sides. When I do that, these 3 zero each other out, leaving y is equal to, and then on the right I have negative 11 plus 3. Signs are different. Find the difference with the sign in front of your larger number going in front of your answer. Y equals 8 is going to be the final answer. Negative 8, excuse me. Take and put your negative 8 here, hit your check. Easy math. Anybody can do these problems. But what if I had a problem like this? 0 and 2/10 times the difference between c and 3 is equal to a negative 10. Is it really super easy to take and divide 0 and 2/10 into a negative 10? Not so much. It's got a decimal involved in there. And because it has a decimal involved in there, I personally think it'd be easier to use a distributive property on this one. Let's see what the textbook says. The textbook disagreed. They chose to take and divide both sides by the 0 and the 2/10. When they did that, these are going to divide out, and the left-hand side is going to leave us with C minus 3. And then on the right-hand side, when you take and divide 0 or negative 10 by 0.2, well, I know it's going to be a negative, and I think the answer is going to be 50? Maybe? I don't know. Let's take and do some math here. So I'm going to take and come over here, grab some space. So I'm going to take and say 10 divided by 0.2, bounce, bounce, annex in zeros, decimal goes up, 2 goes into 10, 5 times 2 is 10, which is nothing left over, but we still have to take care of that 0 as well, and 2 goes into that 0 times, so yes indeed, I was right, that's going to become a negative 50, because a negative divided by a positive is a negative as well. Now we're going to undo addition and subtraction. Subtracting or adding 3 on both sides zeros it out on the left, and that's just going to leave C on the left hand side. And on the right hand side, negative 50 plus 3, signs are different. Find the difference with a sign in front of a larger number going in front of your answer, giving you a negative 47 for your final answer. And once again, it is going to be your turn to solve a problem. Go ahead, pause the video, solve this one on your own. If it was me, I'd really use a distributive property on this one, but you know that's just me. Actually, maybe not. Work the problem. I think I'm actually going to do it the method 1 method, where I'm going to take and start off by dividing both sides by the 0 and 75/100ths, which is a negative number, negative 0 and 75/100ths. These divide out becoming 1. Whoops, that wasn't supposed to happen. Divide out becoming 1. Negatives divide out, and 1 times 6 plus d, that's just going to leave us with 6 plus d is equal to. Now we need to do some grunt work. 12 divided by 0.75. I have to bounce a decimal, 1, 2, annex in zeros. Oh, 75 is going to go into that once, which is going to be 75, and that's going to leave us with 45 left over. Bring down the 0. 75 is going to go into that. Ooh, that's harder. Well, 150 would be twice. 300 would be 3 times. And so that's going to become 6. 6 times 5 is going to be 30. 6 times 7 is 42. Plus 30 is going to be 45 with nothing left over. So I'm going to get D is going to equal to 16. And yes, I know, that number is bigger than we started with. It's because we divided by a number that was smaller than 1. Positive divided by negative is a negative, giving me a negative 16. From here, we're going to undo addition and subtraction by subtracting 6 on both sides. On the left, they zero out, becoming D equals. On the right, we have signs are the same. Find the sum, which is 22, with a sign in front of your larger number going in front of your answer, making that D equals a negative 22 for our final answer, and it checks. Easy math. But what if we had a problem that involved fractions? This is totally a place that I would be using the distributive property, because I can see already things will simplify all nice and stuff on this one. This is totally a distributive property problem. Let's see what the textbook does. Oh, they started off by writing the problem, and then they took and, oh, no. I'll go ahead and show you what they're doing, then I'm going to show you what I'm going to do. They multiplied both sides by the reciprocal, and then from there, these zeroed out, left leaving n plus 6 is equal to 3/2 times 10 over 1. Then they simplified that and multiplied to get n plus 6 is equal to 15. And then they took and subtracted a 6 on both sides, minus 6 minus 6. Check that. And from there, they ended up saying that n was all by its we will lonesome was equal to a positive 9, and check that. Now that does work, but to me that's overly complex. I don't think they're going to show us the other way, so how about I show us the other way, the way I would work this problem, total distributive property here. So I'm going to find some clean real estate. I'm going to paste in my problem. And then the first thing I'm going to do after writing the problem, of course, is going to be to use my distributive property. I'm going to say 2/3 times n plus 2/3 times 6/1 is equal to 10. That's going to leave me with, right here, 2/3 n. Simplify before I multiply. 3 goes into 3 once, 3 goes into 6 two times, which means I'm going to get 4/1, otherwise known as just 4, plus 10. From here, I'm going to undo addition and subtraction by subtracting 4 on both sides. 2/3 n plus 4 minus 4 equals 10 minus 4. And I'm doing this horizontally because there's a fraction involved. Those zeroed out, leaving 2/3 n is equal to 6. Now I'm going to take and multiply both sides by the reciprocal. 2/3 times 3/2n is equal to 6/1 times 3/2. These divide each other out, leaving n is equal to, simplify, 2 goes into 2 once, 2 goes into 6 three times, and when you multiply that out, you're going to get 9/1, otherwise known as 9, which is the same answer the textbook got, the way they did it. Either way is perfectly good. Sometimes you might like to use the distributive property, though. Alright, now it's time for you to work one on your own. Solve this problem, either method you want, and then we'll check and see if you get the answer right. Now, the textbook has been rather fond of solving these problems using the division property of equality, so I'll do that for this one. We're going to start off by undoing multiplication and division, dividing -1/9 on both sides, which is the same thing as multiplying both sides by the reciprocal, which has become -9/1. That would be times v plus 5 on the left, and on the right, I'm going to have 6/1 times a -9/1. These are going to divide each other out, leaving v plus 5 is equal to 6 times 9, that is 54. 1 times 1 is 1, 54/1 is 54, and a positive times a negative, that's a negative. Now we're going to undo multiplication and division, addition and subtraction, by subtracting 5 on both sides, subtracted on the left and the right. On the left-hand side, my 5's zero each other out, leaving v is equal to. On the right-hand side, signs are the same. Find the sum with the sign in front of your larger number going in front of your answer, giving you a -59 for the final answer. Come back over to our textbook. I said come back over to our textbook, -59, and check. And that's all there is to it. Easy math. I think that's where we're going to end this lesson. Y'all go ahead and get started working on your homework. Make sure that no matter which method you choose, you're showing good supporting work for it so I can give you good credit for your homework. I'll see you in class tomorrow.